return home this Tuesday for a showdown with the Seattle Kraken. Puck drop is just after 7 p.m. Hear every goal, every save, and every game-changing moment right here on your home for Wild Hockey, KFAN.
We apologize for the outdated Minnesota Golden Gopher Daily Update. It's a little old, but that's what happened.
I like UCLA's chances in that game.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. That's what'll happen when you take that last segment of 9 to noon so late. It pushes everything back. It's just
a couple weeks.
Sometimes a couple weeks.
I always love that one.
It'll happen when that happens. I do like UCLA's chances.
I'd put money on them.
Joe Smith, Michael Russo. You're familiar with the both of them, tend to be?
Yeah, they write for The Athletic.
Correct.
They cover the Minnesota Wild.
This morning, 6 a.m., bright and early. Now, do you think they were writing until 6 a.m.? Like they were burning the midnight oil and put this piece together? Or do you think that's just when The Athletic decided to release it? Because if you remember, isn't it Schefter who will have tweets that go out at like 2 o'clock in the morning? And, and I think you explained this to me. You can actually...
You can schedule tweets.
Right, yeah, you can schedule, because there's no way, and that's just to try to let people know that he's burning the midnight oil, right? When my guess is he is. Maybe he is. Yeah, I guess it's always possible. But I don't think... Now,
in the Athletics case, they might have an editor doing it, or it is possible because, well, probably not last night because it was a noon game.
Right.
But on some of those late starts, maybe they had to get up for a flight or something and just edited something quickly, and then it gets updated once you edit it.
Well, this wasn't necessarily a gamer. This is a story that it was written by Joe Smith and Michael Russo. 5 burning questions for the Wild ahead of the playoffs and an inevitable star series. 5 burning questions.
5 burning questions.
Yes, and Teneby, I think these have burned so long that it's a 5-alarm fire. You and I have discussed these. Well, you've discussed them, and I've eaten my lunch. Right? Because that's generally when we talk. We talk more Wild during 5-3-4 than any other time. But they have the questions we've talked about. I just want to get what you... I like to do this to Rosen. I like to ask him, what would you do, or what, and then what do you think they'll do? And the first one would be the goaltending rotation. You have Wallstedt and Gus Bus. What do you think the Wild will do with their rotation? And what would you do if you were the coach? Would it be the same? Or is it too hard to even predict?
I don't know if they'll have like a set plan going into it. I think Philip Gustafsson will start game 1.
Okay.
And then you see how it goes. And you see how he plays. If he plays well, you're giving him a game 2. If he's awful, you might make a change. If he's mediocre, you go, maybe we'll give him another game, or let's give... Yeah, I talked about this with Micheletti on Friday on the 10 of Fitzgerald. I'm a little torn because Gustafsson, I like Gustafsson, but I don't love him.
Okay.
Right? I think he's a quality goalie, but, can he backstop you to a deep run and through a Stanley, make you a contender? I still am not sure of that. I do feel like Wallstedt has a higher ceiling. Now... he's still young and hasn't played a lot of games, and we haven't seen him in a Stanley Cup playoff series, so it's hard to know what you'll have out of him until you throw him in the fire. I can see a scenario where Gustafsson starts, and then at some point, kind of like what happened in 2003 with Fernandez and Roley, the goalie, where I believe Fernandez played like the first 4 games against Colorado that year. They were down 3-1. Rolison comes in, they win the next 3. Rolison starts the next series against Vancouver. They're down 3-1. They switch to Fernandez. He wins 3 games in a row, right? So I could see something like that happening. I don't think it's just automatically Gustafsson starts every game.
And did you say that you like Gus Bus, but don't
I like Gus, but I don't love him.
Sort of how Barrero feels about me. We play that liner all the time. I used to love him, but I don't love him anymore, is what Barrero says.
Very similar.
Very similar. Hines is quoted in the piece. He says, I haven't thought that far ahead. Okay. Maybe he hasn't. I think that they both give us a chance to win, so that's a good feeling. So we'll see how it goes down the stretch. Both guys are going to get a good amount of work here leading into the playoffs. And do you feel like that is...
I would be curious if... I know it's only 5 games here, but I'm assuming Wallstedt's going to get 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. And if he's just brilliant, through those two games or 3 games, and Gus throws up another 4 spot like he did against Detroit yesterday. I do wonder if the last couple of games would change their opinion on a rotation at all.
Wally,
but I don't know how they feel.
Is quoted here, and he takes the high road. He was very diplomatic. Says Volstead has been better since the Olympic break, but there are still 5 games to decide who has the hot hand. Volley isn't sure a rotation works best in the playoffs. He says it's hard. You don't want to switch up too much if one's hot. It's hard for me to say too. I've never been in the Stanley Cup playoffs, so I don't know how much either. But I guess we'll see. I think either way we'll be in good hands. So, and I tend to like that. I think you do go with the hot hand. I mean, let's say whoever it is, let's say Gustafsson starts game 1 and he's brilliant. He pitches a shutout, or you win 4-1. He's standing on. Well, why would you switch? You go ahead, go with him again. And if he's really, I mean, I could see you play the entire series using the same goalie for all games. Or do most teams play both their goalies in almost every series, or is that not?
It's usually never like just a flat out rotation. You got game 1, he's got game 2. You got that just never happens. And typically, if you are playing 2 goalies, it's because you don't have one.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, like I said, I think Gus will start game 1. But if he's not on top of his game, I could see them making a change quick.
Question number 2 in the 5, what do we call them?
5 burning questions.
Burning questions. Who plays with Minnesota?
Faber.
It's Faber.
Yeah.
Without question.
He's played the last couple games. I like Faber with Quinn. I know when they were split up for a little bit, Faber started playing with Brodin, and Minnesota was playing with Spurgeon. And there were some that would make the argument of, well, now it can free up Faber to play a little more offensively, right? Because when he's with Quinn, he's got to protect him defensively, because Quinn can be a little erratic at some points and can be very aggressive and make aggressive mistakes. But I actually think Faber plays just as enough, even more so offensively when he's with Quinn, because Quinn can get him the puck in spots that others can't. So he does, and he's a little more confident with Quinn with the puck on his stick. He's not worried about him making awful mistakes. So I think Faber can bring you just as much offensively, if not more, with Quinn than he can with anyone else. And I also think he's your best defensive defenseman, which you need to put with Quinn, because we even saw yesterday against Detroit, Quinn is still, it's one of my concerns against Dallas, and maybe it's going to pop up in your 5 burning questions here, is the net front in your own zone against a team like Dallas that can score in that area, shots from the point, because it seems like every other game now we're seeing a shot going from the point where Quinn's leaving a guy open in front.
Do you have a like a fire sound effect? Because I think that would be
like a flame.
Yeah, like a flame of some sort. See if you can find it. I think that would add to this segment. All the good shows have sound effects and opens and closes and music beds. They're all the good.
How do we not have
all the good
fire in our sound effects?
You would think we have one somewhere.
Maybe I'll have to go to online.
Because I'd love that.
Here we go.
Okay. All right, stop it for a second. Burning question number 3. It's a burning question. Who's the odd man out? Who fills out the bottom 6?
Oh, I just addressed this on X today.
Okay.
This gets Wild fans going, because it kind of happened with Bill Guerin as the GM for Team USA. At forward, he didn't put the top 12 scorers and offensive players. He put the best, what he thought was a team that's structured properly, where guys have roles. And from what I've seen from Nick Foligno, and especially this weekend, I thought he was really good. He is great in a checking role, in a PK role. He'll play physical. He'll get in on the forecheck. He doesn't turn the puck over and make bad plays. Like, he's just so defensively sound. I think he will do well in a playoff series.
Okay.
So to me, it's going to come down to Bobby Brink and Danila Yurov. Bobby didn't play this weekend, the 2 games. And I felt like that's a sign that, assuming everyone's healthy, I think he's going to be the 13th guy. And now, is Bobby Brink better offensively? Can he score more goals than a lot of guys in your bottom 6? Yes. But he can't play center. So he's not taking face-offs. He can't kill penalties for you, which a lot of those guys in the bottom six can do.
I have a bad memory, as you know. So let me, if this is all wrong, let me know. Tarasenko was in his first year with the Wild, right?
Yes.
And when they acquired him, he'd had some standout years with Detroit, right, where he was really good. Or
he was, one of the better players in the league.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And so when we signed him here, was it almost kind of an afterthought? Like, we'll see how it goes. No one's
we basically gave up nothing for him. Like we were taking on a salary.
And has he not had a really good year? I mean, not
back to the old days, but
right,
yeah, I mean, he scored again last night or yesterday, and he's at 22, I believe.
So you
put him in a chance one-on-one the goalie, like he snipes him.
Yeah. So in other words, the acquisition has turned out to it's been fruitful.
Yeah, it's been quality.
Very good.
At the beginning of the year, it didn't look very good, and he's kind of gotten better as the year's gone along. I will say with him, he's a name nobody's been throwing out as a guy who's a 13th forward, and nor should he because he's played well enough. I can see a scenario, though, where in the playoffs, the speed of the game picks up. And will he be able to keep up with a playoff pace? Now, he's smart and he's crafty, and like I said, if you get him the puck and a chance to shoot, he can score goals. But I do wonder if his game starts to slide once you get in the playoffs because the pace of the game will pick up.
Is he one of those guys that if you're on an airplane and it's on fire, you're kind of worried about him being at the exit row because he's not as nimble as he used to be?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. We have two more burning questions.
Okay.
We'll have them on the other side of the break, and they're burning. Matter of fact, I might have a fever by the time we get back. We'll come back with burning questions for the Wild as they head to postseason play. That's next here on the Time of Matt program on The Fan.
Looking to score tickets to the biggest games and concerts in town? From Santana, the Doobie Brothers, 311, Chris Stapleton, and more. Your chance to win is waiting. Enter now at KFAN.com, keyword contest.
Couple 13-14 past. I'm Common. He's a 10 of B. Here until 3, big ticket, and JG will take over at that point. We were talking about the Minnesota Wild and 5 burning questions. I just want to play the sound effect into the ground. Yeah, thank you. We've gotten through 3 burning questions, 10 to me, and now burning question number 4. Number 4.
How are Russo and Joe Smith answering the questions so far, by the way, that I've answered?
What do they say?
Suppose I could just read it later at the Athletic.
Yeah, well, and I'm even thinking they don't actually answer the question. They're just like going with...
They're just throwing the questions out there.
Yeah, what the coach said. They're giving the highs and lows on each one. And then Hines on the... who plays with Hughes... What does Hines say? His quote is, we still haven't decided finally what we'll do with it. There's a little bit of time here, but I think both pairs would be good. He had 2 pairs, and he thought both would be good. As far as odd man out, he says he's not committing to anything. He says the same thing there. No, we don't know. No set lineups. We'll kind of see how it goes. A number 4, Tenneby. You ready for this one? Burning question number 4. Do you split up Kaprizov and Boldy?
Oh my gosh.
In last year's first-round playoff series against the Vegas Golden Knights, Kaprizov and Boldy were dynamic together. They were on the top line with Ek, racked up a combined 10 goals and 16 points in 6 games, each star scoring 5 goals. Once the Golden Knights slowed them down, Vegas took over the series with Kaprizov and Boldy combining for just 2 goals in the final 3 games. So would it make sense to split them up? And it looks like the Wild will.
I was going to say it seems more likely than not. They haven't even played them together in a while.
Right.
I still think, and we have to see in a playoff series, but Kaprizov with Zuccarello, those two just have a feel for each other and know how to find each other. And Boldy doesn't need those guys to score. And Boldy's got a relatively good vibe with Eriksson Ek. So basically the way they had the lines this weekend is what I would roll with.
Okay.
And I almost think that this weekend, and when Russo was on with me on Friday on the Fitzgerald, he made a comment of, basically these 2 games this weekend, they're looking to almost set up a lineup that could be game 1 of the playoffs. And Ryan Hartman has been great. He did make a couple defensive mistakes yesterday, but offensively, he's been absolutely on fire the last couple games, and he's centering
on fire.
He's centering Kaprizov and Zuccarello, but also confidently playing the puck with himself. He's not just deferring to those two. There's always a question of whether Johansson is going to be enough to play with Eriksson Ek and Boldy, but for now, that's the way you got to go. And like I said, I like that 4th line of McCarron and the 2 Felinos. And Urov and Trenyan and Tarasenko all season long have seemed to have a good chemistry. So the way they set up the 4 lines against Ottawa and Detroit, that's what I would go with, at least to begin with. Now, if you start having some issues, and it is going to be harder to score against Dallas. They're good defensively. Their goalie is fantastic, Ottinger.
Is he the kid from Lakeville?
He's from Lakeville, yeah. So you might have to make adjustments as the series goes along, and that's where a guy like Brink, right? If you're struggling to score, all right, let's throw him in the lineup and see especially for home games where you can kind of create your own lineup matchups, and maybe that's when you want to add an offensive guy. But at least this weekend they were scoring without Brink. They had no problem scoring this weekend.
And then burning question number 5: do they go for home ice? Hines hinted after last week's win over the Canucks that the Wild could rest players, but suddenly home ice advantage is attainable if they take care of business. How does that change things? Here's what Hines said. We'll talk about the plan and where we're at and where guys are and what we'll do. So sounds like they could go into tank mode. Not necessarily tank, but rest guys. Home ice doesn't always matter, but remember that when it comes to the Wild Stars, historically, Minnesota stinks in Dallas.
Yeah.
The Wild are 39, 41, 13 all time against the Stars in the regular season, but 13, 26, and 8 in Dallas and 2 and 4 in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how Hines and the Wild brass proceed this week. It'd be a shame if they sustain injuries heading into the postseason, but also be a shame not to at least try to snag that extra home game. Boldy's quoted here. He says, if it happens, it happens. But the more you start to think about that stuff and stress out about it, it just adds a little bit more into the group that I don't think we need right now. We're definitely pushing for it, don't get me wrong. But I think if we just focus on playing the right way and taking care of one game at a time, and it happens, then great. And I'll say about that what I always do, and you're probably tired of hearing about it, but my theory, but just because something has happened time after time after time, or something hasn't happened time after time after time, doesn't mean that can't change. Yeah, thank you. Time after time. I'll use a recent Joe Ryan appearance as a example. I think going into his start against Kansas City, he was like 11-1 against Kansas City, or 11-2, something like that. ERA 2.01. Kansas City couldn't. He was dominant against Kansas City. Well, now it was rotten weather on that day in Kansas City, but both teams had to play in it, and they lost 5-1, and Joe wasn't very effective. So, again, just because he had dominated Kansas City all those times doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. In other words, I'd still rather have home ice advantage. Instead of you go, well, of course, that's what I'm saying. You'd want home ice, whether you're better, whether your record historically has been better on the road or better at home. I still think you're better off on home ice. Now, again, as we know, teams that have been on the road can win series as well. But that's what I'd go for. But I don't think just because.
I don't think you need to go all in to do it.
No, that's true. Yeah, I agree.
What's great about the last 2 games is that looked like a team that was ramping up for the playoffs, and they had a much more attention to detail, different focus. They were engaged physically. They were getting into shooting lanes, blocking shots. Yesterday, they blocked 25 shots, which matched their season high. Boldy blocked one in the last 10 seconds. So it is a little dicey. I would say you play for it for now, right? You try to beat Seattle tomorrow night, and then you play Dallas Thursday. So that's going to be a pretty decisive game as to whether you're going to catch them or not. Dallas has the tiebreaker, so it's not like you completely control your own density at this point. Assuming you beat Seattle, I would keep playing it out as if you were trying to get that spot. But if you have any loss of any sort, you don't want to get to the point where you are risking injury. Because I think that they did show this last weekend, like, hey, we can flip the switch when we want to.
Okay.
Because they started playing the right way, and they flipped the switch, and they played pretty well this weekend. But do we want Matt Boldy over the next 5 games, putting himself in harm's way, trying to block shots? It just takes one to break a bone in the foot, and now you either are playing with a gimpy Matt Boldy or he's not playing at all, and then you're done. So it is a fine line between. It'd be great to have home ice advantage. I don't know if you'd need to play all out to get it, though.
Let me add this as we go to break. Regardless, home ice advantage, you don't have home ice advantage, game goes 7, goes 4, anywhere in between. I think the Wild want to keep each game scoreless as long as possible. That's what I think they want to do. That's what I'm going with. I think that's wise advice from a hockey.
Yeah, you don't want to get out to an early 2-0 lead.
You do not want to get out to an early 2-0 lead.
Well, and to your point earlier about what's happened in the past, those were all completely different teams. This is the best team the Wild have ever had. Those Wild teams did not have Quinn Hughes. Those Wild teams did not have 2 superstar forwards, which we now have because Matt Boldy's playing at another level. They didn't have a second defenseman as good as Brock Faber. They didn't have the fourth line checking depth and this team, I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't make this assumption before we get into the Dallas series, but should be a better penalty killing team than we've seen in the past. None of that. Now they could still lose because they're going to be playing one of the best teams in the league, but none of that really applies to this year's team because this is a much more playoff capable team than any of those teams.
The other player they don't have is Brizgavalov either. They don't have him. That's okay too because I like our net minding. We'll take our final break of the program and touch on a little of this, a little of that with the emphasis on the last. Next, Common Man program on the Fan. Couple 13-14 pass. Common Man program. Someone's describing the show as hospital waiting room radio.
Huh?
I tend to agree. It's hospital waiting room.
Is that a compliment or an insult?
Either one. I'm not sure. I just like the sound of it. You know me. I'm all about how words sound. Like beep, 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 and yabba dabba doo and ack, ack, adack. I just like the way words sound together. For me, this is the most wonderful time of the year. Get home, 7 o'clock, live from on Golf Channel. Chambly, McGinley, and Rich Lerner breaking it down for us. Incredible. And it's the kind of things I make fun of other people for. I get that. Like if you were watching some breakdown of the National Hockey League, and it's like, the saucer pass here, and look at the way he stacks his pads, and it's like it's hockey. And it's the same thing with golf, but I don't care. For the Masters, I love it. I love when they break it down and start talking about the amen corner. By the way, tend to be in church when you go and you end a prayer. Do you say amen or amen? I say it has to be amen because they don't call it amen corner, do they? Call it amen.
No,
corner.
Yeah, it's amen corner.
So he has to say. So in church, I always say amen. I know we've had this discussion, Teneby as well, but I'm going to ask you again anyway. Are you, when it comes to sports, are you superstitious? I'll give you an example. Like there are some baseball players, when they run out into the field, they touch first base on the way out there. And I would suggest that to all the Twins because that's the only time they're ever going to touch first base all year. By the looks of it. But, they'll have these little you don't touch the baseline, or like with the Wild,
Don't touch the logo.
Don't walk on the logo in the locker room. Do you have any of those at all? that you do with that you've had with sports?
I don't think so. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I don't say it's. Would it be habits or no? That's not the word I'm looking for. But like, rituals. Yeah, like for playing hockey. Like I always go left to right on my shin pads.
Okay.
And my socks and my skates, but it's not. It's not like I think I would have a horrible performance on the ice if I happen to go the other way.
You would have a horrible performance if you ate like a piece of chocolate cake before.
Well,
what is it when you eat before?
Any bad food I can feel now at this age on the ice. Yeah.
So you can't do that. Reason I bring that up is I ran into an Associated Press sports your whole life, just sports story leading up a preview of the Natty tonight. UConn must overcome Michigan's dominance to establish a basketball dynasty in a national title game. This would be their third. Do I have that right? How did I miss all of this? How did I miss that UConn has won 2 of the last 3 national championships? And this would be 3 in the last 4 years. We haven't seen anything like it since, I believe, the days of John Wooden, when they won like 11 in a row. They have a chance to win 3 titles in 4 years. The story says, there's a dynasty brewing in college basketball, and in a perfectly fitting twist, UConn can cement that status by overcoming a Michigan powerhouse that is racking up historically impressive numbers, hoping to go down as one of the sport's greatest teams itself. Connecticut trying to become the first program since John Wooden's UCLA behemoth of the 1960s and 70s to win 3 championships over a 4-year span. So I did have that right. Maybe I read this and I didn't remember. While Michigan's trying to cap off a March Madness string of dominance, the likes of which were last seen by this very UConn program when they won it all in 2023-2024. Wolverines are a 6.5-point favorite by BetMGM Sportsbook. Both teams will be not missing key players, but questionable. They both say they'll play no matter what.
Might be playing hurt.
Right. But,
one of them was in a boot after the last game.
Yes, that was the UConn guard, Solo Ball. In a team game, you really don't want your name to be Solo Ball, do you? You know, it's basically Hero Ball. And then the Lendenborg guy has, like, I think a twisted knee and a twisted ankle both. Yeah. And nevertheless, and it didn't look like he was going to come back in the game. They helped him off the court, went to the locker room. I think he came back and then went to the locker room again. But nevertheless, the Wolverines are the first team to score 90-plus points in 5 straight tournament games. They are trying to become the 5th team to win 6 tournament games by double digits. The other 4, 2009 North Carolina, 2018 Villanova, and both of those recent UConn teams. So UConn has been as dominant as well. But I'm looking at this as I go further into the story. It says Hurley looks for a title and a tailor. One key casualty of all this UConn success, Hurley's sideline wear. He has worn the same blue suit at March Madness, dating as far back as 2012 when he was coaching Rhode Island. That's the same blue suit for 14 years.
You've got to be kidding me.
He also wears the same socks and underwear. That's gross. I hope he does wash them between
I'd like to think
tournaments. Hopefully between games.
But by looking at him, I can't rule that out.
He also wears the same socks and underwear and eats 8 M&Ms before games. He counts them out.
What colors are they?
Well, none of them are green.
You've got to be kidding me.
Are they all blue? Blue and red.
Hurley said, the pants are fine. It's the jacket that is really, the lining is a problem. There's like 3 holes. When I stick my arm in the right, there's like 3 different places you can stick your arm. And if you can see it, it's like the lining coming through. I'm going to have to get a tailor in the off season.
Just thought of that now?
Well, what do you think he's making a year? $6 million, $8 million, $10 million? How much does a coach of his nature make? Let's say it's $10 million. No,
not enough to get you to the fool or get you to the grave, fool.
This is what I tell people all the time. $10 million after taxes is really like 6. Then, I got to be honest with you. Buy a house, buy yourself a car, buy your mom a house. You spend, invest, save, use, flaunt. Can you make that last? But yeah, I
always love
get
that
yourself a new suit. The super, you're not winning because of the suit. But of course, I say that had he decided, let's say his wife said, look, it's embarrassing. Get a new suit. If he goes and gets a new suit and he loses, I guarantee you he's going to say it was because of the suit.
That's what I was going to bring up, though, is how long has he had this jacket? Did you say it's been 13, 14 years he's been wearing it?
2012, he's been wearing this suit.
They haven't won the national title every single one of those seasons. At some point, they had to have games or seasons in which
that's correct.
He didn't now, obviously, in the last 4 years, they've had lots of success. But at some point, the whole point of a superstition is I got to wear this so we can do well. Well, you didn't do well that entire time. There's moments you've had games where you've lost wearing that. You might lose tonight wearing that suit. There
is an old saying called dress for success. He's dressing like he looks like a mess, is what he's doing. Thank you very much. And then the underwear and the socks thing. I mean, that can't be since 2012. Those underwear have to have disintegrated by now.
There's no way. The socks have to have holes in them. The band on the underwear has been stretched out.
I would think. Because you would, even I'm sure he takes care of himself, and maybe he's working overtime workout, but you would think he probably put on a couple 13, 14 pounds over the years, and it's just how does it even fit anymore? But he does look pretty fit. I mean, he certainly doesn't.
Yeah, he looks like he's in good shape.
Looks like he's in good shape.
But even just every time you put it up over your legs, sometimes you're stretching it a little bit.
It's like. And then I wonder, are they boxers? Are they briefs? And then if they're white, they're all dingy by now, right? Unless you're putting them in Clorox bleach. It's just disgusting to think about. It's like, dude, get a grip. Come on, man. Get a new suit. Get some underwear and socks. If I'm his wife, I demand it.
Do you think this is all made up because he's going to have like an underwear socks endorsement coming out of the Final Four? Getting the story out there, then he's going to make money. He's going to profit off of it.
Haven't listened for the last hour to get your eyesight back. It's better, but I still think I might have something wrong with my eyes.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, I don't have those. Have you ever stared into the sun for like 8 or 10 seconds, and then when you look away, all you see is spots everywhere?
Probably shouldn't stare at the sun.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm saying if you ever do, you just catch a glimpse of it. I wasn't staring at the sun, but that's what it seemed like. And maybe it was because I was talking to a couple of salespeople, and they had their back to the windows, and I was looking out the windows. But I couldn't. I panicked. I called my wife. The first person I call is my wife anytime anything. She thinks I'm a hypochondriac, and I am. I even sent her a text apologizing, saying, look, I know you think I imagine all these things.
She's a saint. I would just ask Rosie. He's got all the malady questions.
Well, speaking of Rosie, this text message says, did you and Tenneby get the invite to hang out with Rosen and Shelby to watch tonight's national championship game? Because they've always watched it together for so many years now. It's just been forever. It's been 25, 30 years they've watched it together. And they've only known each other for about 18 years. So it's amazing that they still watch the game together. We did not get that. I
always love that one.
We did not get that.
You and I could just go to like the nearest Perkins to his house tonight, and I'm sure he'll go there because he's a huge fan of Perkins.
He loves Perkins.
Yeah.
He loves the Monte Cristo sandwich, but he didn't know what was included in a Monte Cristo sandwich, but he sure loved it.
I always love that one.
So there's that. So yeah, I just found it amazing that he's wearing the same suit, and but I guess that's what you got to do. The M&M's
He's
thing.
got to have more superstitions than that.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Well, the M&M's thing is even, because the color ain't going to make a difference. I don't think. I mean, I don't know how to break this to Bobby. Is it Danny Hurley or Bobby Hurley? What's his name?
Bobby was the point guard from Duke back in the Christian Laettner Grant Hill days.
Are they related?
I would assume so. I think they might be brothers.
So, I don't know if Danny knows this, but like the color of the M&M doesn't change the flavor. So like a green one isn't like a lime flavored M&M. Red one isn't a cherry flavored or strawberry flavored M&M. The black is chocolate flavored. There is no question about that. But it really doesn't make any.
They are brothers.
They are.
Their dad was a basketball coach.
Okay. Sweet. Good for them. So we'll see how it goes tonight. Let me ask you a question, Teneby.
They're not twins, though.
No. One other story I saw, NBA related, we'll toss a bone out to the basketball community. This story was updated on Saturday. Athletic piece by Eric Nem. NBA says facts remain in dispute as Antetokounmpo Bucks investigation continues. Dateline Milwaukee. Calling it, quote, against my nature to sit out games, Bucks forward Giannis Antetokounmpo insisted he is healthy enough to play, but is being held out by the only team he has represented in his 13-year NBA career. A league investigation into the matter, as first reported by The Athletic, is ongoing. On Saturday, the NBA gave an update on the investigation, saying that, quote, certain facts remain in dispute, unquote, particularly around whether the Bucks provided Antetokounmpo with a path to return. Here's what the NBA said Saturday. The investigation has found that the Bucks scheduled Giannis to work out last week in 3-on-3 scrimmages as part of his return to play process, but he declined to participate. There is a disagreement as to whether the team requested that Giannis participate in a group workout earlier this week, and the league is continuing to monitor the situation. The NBA has been looking into Antetokounmpo's situation. A source briefed on the situation told The Athletic and has been engaged in conversations with the Bucks. The NBA Players Association previously issued a statement asserting that the Greek Freak was healthy and being withheld from games as part of his tanking effort by the Bucks. Here's what Antetokounmpo said before Friday's game against the Celtics, Teneby. You know who you're dealing with, so for somebody to come and tell me not to play or not to compete, it's like a slap in my face. So I don't know where the relationship goes from there. I've never seen a case of a player saying, my caliber of player, that's like, I'm saying it publicly, I want to bleep and play. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I've seen this. So if there needs to be an investigation, great, there should be. I don't know. There should be until we can figure something out. I'm available to play, but I'm not in the game. I'm available to play today. Right now, I'm available. Do I look like I'm not available? I don't see myself in the first 12. I don't see myself in the starting lineup. I don't know what game is being played right here. I just don't want to be a part of it. Wait, hold on. Oh, the done is what I lost. Or did I? Yeah, you know where the extra text notification is?
You lost the dun.
Yeah, do you think we can ever find it?
Yeah, of course.
Good, because that's one of my favorite sound bites of all time.
You want another text notification?
Yeah. What do you make of this, Teneby? I mean, Antetokounmpo was basically saying, I want to play. Now, there's this workout that he apparently didn't participate in. And, of course, that's what the team and the league is saying. But he's pretty frontal and pretty adamant that I want to play. I'm ready to play. They won't play me. This, and we discussed, there's another story I found in The Athletic we might get into tomorrow that is, it's saying the tanking is worse than you even believe, because it started spelling out what I did my tease earlier today about, since the All-Star break, it's since February 5th, it's just been awful as far as the teams that want to be that first round pick or want to be 1, 2, or 3. They are going far and above normal tanking practices. I mean, it's as obvious as it can get. And so it's just, and we discussed this too. If you are a fan of a terrible team in a terrible city with terrible fans in a terrible stadium, and you need that player, one player, as you said, Teneby, can change the trajectory of a franchise overnight. One guy, look at what Wembanyama's done for San Antonio. Look what Joker did for Denver. Look what Edwards did for the Wolves. There are guys that they can change. Doncic, or Doncic, however you want to pronounce it today, for Dallas. I mean, they've changed these teams.
Is this tanking, though? Because right now they're 11th in the East. They're 10 games behind 10th. So they can't even catch. They can't make a playoff spot. And at this point, could they maybe move up a spot or two? They can move up maybe one spot and get one spot worse. But they are going to have, when it comes to NBA draft lottery, they're going to have the 10th spot.
Okay.
And there's really there's not a whole lot of room for them to move up from that other than Chicago, if they got worse than Chicago over the next 4 games, right? To me, this has been done in other sports, has been done in the NHL. They're trading him this summer, and they don't want to put him in a position to have an. They don't want him to get hurt, where then all of a sudden your asset's gone this summer and you can't trade him. Because it does really then there's very little out of tanking at this point for where they're at. But they know they're trading him, and this has happened in the NHL where before the trade deadline, hey, we are going to sit this guy out, not because he's hurt, but because it's basically they're admitting he could get traded, and we don't want him to get hurt before the game starts. Now it's not as much of an extent probably as they've dealt with Giannis.
Sure,
but I'm guessing that's what it is.
No, that does make sense because remember we were even going to trade for him eearlier.
Yes, he almost got traded before the deadline.
That's what that is. So it's not a tank.
And I'm sure there's deals then that are probably like, all right, well, let's make that deal in the summer, or we'll tinker it a little bit in the summer.
Yeah.
So he's gone, and they don't want to put him in harm's way where he can ruin those trades because as much as they don't want to lose him, he can bring a haul back if you know he's gone.
Well, as a matter of fact, they're doing a story right now on TV. On ESPN does they noon for 2 until 3. They do the NBA Today or whatever, and it says NBA investigating Bucks and how they're handling Antetokounmpo's health. Well, now I have to admit, well. I was going to say, now I'm sort of siding with the team a little bit, but then it goes back to the whole idea of the ticket buyers that want to watch the Milwaukee Bucks play. You want to see Antetokounmpo, but I mean, I guess you have to look out for the franchise. And if he really if you're really concerned about injury issues that would jeopardize what you can get in return for him, that it's hard not to stick up for the franchise.
It's also unfair to the player.
Yeah.
Now, Giannis is going to be fine. He's going to make money and go wherever he goes, he'll make a lot of money. But a player could be in a spot where, hey, they're not losing dollars because you're sitting them out.
Sure.
Right? They're not getting the same stats as they normally would for a season. So but if I'm Milwaukee, I understand it. You don't want a torn ACL and then all of a sudden you can't trade him this summer, and you'll never get the value back that he's at. And right now, you can get a load for him, and you risk never getting that value back again. And they're playing for nothing. They're out of the playoffs, so I get it.
Yeah, I guess that makes some sense. So it's not as controversial as I wanted it to be.
They're still being investigated.
Well, there is an investigation, but they might be barking up the wrong tree. But I mean, if a guy wants to play. I don't know. It's always, what is it called? Did not play, coach's decision, right?
DNP.
Yeah, DNP. Boy, we had a great time today, didn't you? I had so much fun. And if we're having fun, the audience is having fun. And thanks for having me, Tenneby.
Hey, great job.
That. You as well. We really did enjoy being with you today. We're back tomorrow at 12 noon, unless we've got a late, maybe we got a PJ Flex show. We just had a.
According to our latest Gopher report, we might have one tomorrow.
We might have one tomorrow. We might have one with Don, head coach of the Gals.
Can we do like a baseball coach's show or something? What other spring sports are there?
I'm all for it. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon. Big Ticket, JG, there next year on The Fan.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota!
And good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.